Hey y'all, welcome to another video from WreckingOut.com. Today I'm showing you how I took this 3/16 inch piece of Amsteel and I turned it into a full berry rope for attaching a climbing stick to a tree. I just bought a Big B.O.B from Out on a Limb. The Big B.O.B is targeted at one stickers. It has a platform integrated into the top that can angle up or down depending on if you're a sitter or a leaner. And I'm going to try it out this year for one sticking. The Big B.O.B does come with Amsteel attached already, but you could opt to do it yourself, which is what I'm going to do, since it's not too hard to make a length of Amsteel for attaching it to the tree. So the first step is to take about 17 feet of Amsteel, and you're going to double it over. And then you're going to make one side about 18 inches shorter than the other. The longer length will actually shorten up as you bury the other end into it, so that's why I'm offsetting it. If you've not seen me do a Brummel lock before, you just make about a 2-inch loop and you take a fid and you're going to pass it right through the center. This fid is made from a number 13 knitting needle. I also will use a number 11. I think it's a little bit easier to use the number 11 with the 3/16 inch Amsteel. But just make that initial loop and then pull it to the size that you need it. Again, this one's about 2 inches, depending on what you're doing with it. If you're putting it over like a Versa button, you'll want to measure it, but this one will have a screw pass through the middle of it. And then what you'll want to do is loosen up that other end. And what we're going to do is make a figure 8, and that figure 8 will lock in that loop. If you haven't worked with Amsteel before, there's pretty defined threads within it. You want to go in between those. You don't want to pierce one of those. You'll know you know it if you do, because it'll be like white fibers, but you want to go in between them right in the middle in order to not compromise the Amsteel. So I'll pass that through and again take that other line and make the figure 8. And then you'll pull that tight. So when you hear full bury, what that means is the entire length of the Amsteel has the other end passing through the middle. And what this will do is, for this 3/16 inch, it will make it where the cam cleat on the Big B.O.B is, the rope is in spec for the cam cleat. So once you reestablish where the shorter end of the Amsteel is, you're going to find the longer end and go right up to the edge of the Brummel lock, and we're going to start burying the shorter end into that long length. So again, loosen it up. And one tip that I found is, if you just take an old Era, if it's the right size, you can use it as a pretty long fid. You're still going to have to work it in sections, because there's so much friction as you do the full bury that if you're pushing the way I'm doing, some people will use a tool to pull the Amsteel through, but if you're pushing, you'll have to do it in sections. So you're seeing that I'm working it right down the center using that Era as a fid. And once it gets a little bit difficult, you don't want to go too far, because if it gets really difficult, it will be hard to pass it through and you'll blister your hands trying to push it. But once you get it through, you just want to bury the other end. Now I use a number 9 knitting needle. They're pretty cheap, and I use that as a tool to push it, because you don't want the other end coming out in the middle of the bury, otherwise you'll have to start over. So pull that through a little bit, and then you're just going to continue to work this process until you go all the way to the end. So you don't want to skip any threads, just pick up right in the same hole where you left off. So right here, I'm coming to the end, and you can see that I've passed it all the way through. And now you're just going to take that inner strand that you buried and you're going to pull it. So there's no loop. And then this part, you'll probably want to do it a few times. You just kind of want to milk down that outer layer of Amsteel and you'll be able to tell once you have all the play out of it. You want it to be really tight, and it'll feel like one piece of rope. It'll probably take you a few times of just reworking it, because again, you want to get all of it all the way worked down. And what I do on the end is I intentionally cut it a little short, because I'm going to bury the main line into itself. So this is a pair of 10 snips, and I'm just going to cut it off. And then as you pull that back down, you'll see the inner piece disappear into the main line. And you'll kind of have this little tail end that doesn't have a piece of Amsteel running through it. I neglected to get some good footage of me doing this because it was out of focus, so I'll show you another example of when I buried an end. All you need to do is bend it over, and then you'll loosen it right at the bend, and then at the point you want to pull out the Amsteel. And once you bury the end into itself by running the fid through the bend, it'll make a little bit of a weighted end, so you don't have the Amsteel mainline fraying. So just work it down, and then take that tail end and work it back through the main line. So you're essentially pushing the line into itself. That's my number 9 needle again. Again, it's a good tool to help you push. And once you pull that through, it's kind of the equivalent of a whipping on the end of the line, but it's just the Amsteel buried into itself. So that is all you need to do to make your own full bury Amsteel. Hope that helps y'all, and I will let you know when I get the Big Bob. Thanks.